Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bloodstained Wings, and I do art. Today, I thought we would do something that we very usually do. This is an oil painting of lilac done with a palette knife. And enough talking, let's get right into it. Okay, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This is actually one of my Patreon rewards. And if you want to join my Patreon, feel free. Normally I do my Patreon rewards on stream, but this person took a little bit longer to make their decision as to what exactly they wanted. And so I'm going to do it off stream because I already did the other ones on stream. So I thought I would do it here and show you guys on the YouTube one of the things that is possible as a reward for supporting me on Patreon. This is one of the higher tiers. It's literally the highest tier size of reward, and my rewards are based on size. There are two tiers in which you can get paintings. One of them is this size, the other one is a wee bit smaller. It's actually significantly smaller. We're talking about it's less than half the size of this. So this one is actually a really good value for dollar. Just if you want to know, just an FYI. So I'm going to start this painting with some white, actually. Even though I just put the clear on, I'm going to switch to white real quick. I think it would be better if it was white. I'm going to come back and put some color in the background, and then I'm going to do some crazy palette knife work, because we all know that I like to use the palette knife and be crazy with the palette knife, so no one is going to be like, oh, you like to use a palette knife? I didn't know. And if you don't know that, then you haven't watched any of my videos. If you would like to see more of my palette knife paintings, please feel free to go through my YouTube. There are many palette knife paintings that I have done, including a lovely seascape, as well as, I don't know, some other stuff. Animal ones. I did some animal ones. So I am now going to mix some sap green with the Verdant hue, and I'm just varying the color on my brush. So I want some like vague greenness to happen, and I want it to be like a variable green kind of thing. I don't want it to be like the same green everywhere. Variable green is what I'm looking for. Just to kind of like have a blurry green background that just kind of like, oh, what is it? Who knows? It's green. It's a garden. That's the kind of idea that I'm going for in the background anyways. The foreground, which is going to be these lovely lilac bushes. Well, bush, it's one. It's two stems of a flower. But the point is, is that that's going to be the focal point of the painting. And I'm going to do like a textured palette knife kind of painting for that part. Because I thought that would be fun. So that's what I'm gonna do. I need more goop. Apparently, I didn't put enough goop on when I started this painting. Or it's a particularly thirsty day for my lovely paper. This is done on a canvas paper, so it is both canvas and paper, and it will not warp with oils. It will warp with waters, but not with oils. So there's that. That's good. if you want to know the kind of canvas paper that I'm using, it's literally called canvas paper. It's not a secret. It's not hard to find. You literally look up canvas paper, and I use the Strathmore one. But there are other ones, and I've heard very good things about the Arches paper, although I have yet to try it. That is one of the ones that I have heard good things about. So in case they don't have Strathmore where you are, you can try Arches. And all of this is in the background here, well, in the foreground technically, but in the black and white that you see. I did that with gesso and a liner brush before we started the painting, and I allowed it to dry completely. And I did that because it'll have a vague, like you'll be able to see sort of kind of a little bit of this in the background. Not a whole heck of a lot, but it adds to the like this is this kind of flower kind of idea. It also gives me a shape to like work off of, which is good to have. So if you are following along, please make sure that when you are done with your background, which I'm not happy with the way that it looks. I'm going to go over, oh geez, apparently there was blue in that. Oh well, we're going to make a little bit of blue. That's okay. I just want to blend it a bit more so that it's all nicely blended. But make sure that you blend it to the point where you are happy with it. Because we're not going to be going over the background again. So this is all we're going to do for the background. And I just want it to be kind of vague shapes. I don't want anything too specific going on with this. But I do want it to be nicely blended. I don't want there to be like big chunks of paint anywhere. I want it to be nicely blended and even. I find adding white to be really good for blending. You can just add a little bit and it goes a long way with white. Whereas I find with other colors it tends to, I don't know, not blend so well. I definitely painted my table over here. That's just on the table. That is forever there. That's okay. All right, I kind of like this light corner here. That's kind of nice. I like the way that looks. That's good. Okay, so if you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. You know, and then we can move on to the flowery bits. The flowery bits are kind of like a pinky purple situation. So what I'm gonna do is I have, actually I'm just gonna straight up mix it. I'm going to clean my palette knife, and I'm going to take all of my alizarin crimson, half of my quinacridone violet, and a smidge of blue. Just a smidge. Just a little smidge of blue. And I'm just mixing this with the palette knife. There we go. Until I get a nice bluey kind of purple color. And then I'm going to pick up a whole heck of a lot of white and have it on the side and mix kind of like a lighter color, and then have that color on my brush, the lighter color. And so now with this lighter color, I'm going to come in here and kind of plop it in to the areas that I want to have this color. And I am going to blend this out so that it is very thin. I don't want it to be as thick as it currently is. But you don't have to be too particular. We're going over this with a palette knife, so. But that's about how thin I want it. So you can just barely see the flowers underneath, and here it's not nearly that thin. It's much thicker. So I'm just gonna come back and blend. By blend, I mean literally swirl it around in circles until it's thinner. That's that's what I mean by blend when I say, and just blend it out. You just kind of smoosh it around. Just smoosh it around a bit. And you don't have to follow the lines, which is really nice. I like when you don't have to follow the lines. Because following the lines is hard. And, you know, I don't like it to be too difficult. I like easy paintings. Like Bob Ross. He likes easy paintings. There we go. Talks about that sometimes, about how, like, he used to spend hours trying to get the reflections right until he figured out a way to make it easier. And then he's like, yeah, and now it's easy, and I like that. In case you guys didn't see, I actually did do a Bob Ross dedication video on the anniversary of his passing, which is July 4th, which is also America Day. And it's in the playlist if you guys want to see it. No pressure if you don't want to see it. But I'm a big fan of Bob Ross and all the work that he does. And he inspired me to start painting. If you guys are painting along, because I inspired you to paint, then that is the biggest compliment I could ever have in my entire life. So thank you, anyone who is painting along. I really appreciate that. And if you're going to say, BSW, you totally cheated in this painting by having a painting underneath, I'm going to say, yes, I did. You're welcome. Bob Ross does it all the time. If he can do it, so can I. That's going to be my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So I just grabbed a little bit more paint, because it seems like everything is getting real thin now. And I maybe need more paint, but I want to kind of move this paint from here to over there, because it's still kind of thick over here. Although really, I'm going to be going over this palette knife, so I'm not sure why I care, but apparently I do. So you can mix up whatever kind of flavor of purple that you want for this, because lilacs actually come in a wide variety of colors, including white and pink and purple. And some of them like come in this like really rich dark purple that's quite stunning, and some of them come in a more like a light pinkish hue. Some of them have like the double blossom thing going on, which is quite stunning. And then the white, I love the white. That's just beautiful in my opinion. But white lilacs, I feel like don't represent what lilac really is. I feel like this color more represents like lilac, you know? So that's why I went for this color for this, because we're gonna get kind of abstract with it in a moment, which is the plan. The plan is to get a little abstract with it. Just blending all that out. There we go. So it kind of looks like lilac already, which is good. Now we're gonna mess with it. Who's ready to mess with it? Raise your hand. Okay. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the quinacridone violet and make it a little bit redder. And then I'm gonna add a bunch of white. And I'm not going to mix it all that well. I'm gonna have it like kind of variable on my palette knife here. And again, I've got a little roll of paint on the edge of my knife. and then very lightly. This is the key to using a palette knife, is to do it very lightly. I'm just gonna kind of like pull color so that color kind of starts to exist, and then I'll go over it again with multiple layers to make it do what I want it to do, but we'll start over here. Why not? But you can see there's a bunch of colors going on my palette knife there. It's not just straight one purple. There's like some variations going on, and that's what we're looking for, is for it to do that kind of stuff. But you start with the base color so that you don't have to worry about everything being filled in. Which helps a lot. My opinion is that it helps a lot. Ooh, that was a lot of paint. Let's not grab that much paint. A little roll of paint, not a giant roll of paint. But you can see there's a lot of variation in the palette knife, and the amount of colors that I'm picking up, what's going on with it. There's a whole heck of a lot of variation. And we want that. It gives the idea of depth and things going on. So it's not all just, like, it helps with roundness. But also, lilac colors are variable in their actual makeup. They're not all the same. They have like slight variations in how they present and blossom within each tree. But yeah, we're just gonna keep going with this kind of a process until we get something that we are happy with. I could fast forward this process for you guys if you want, but then you wouldn't get any of my funny jokes, just so much of the funny jokes, which I know are everybody's favorite. I have no funny jokes. I just randomly sing sometime. I have been told on my streams that there needs to be just a playlist of me randomly singing, which I think is hilarious. Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. See, the random singing. I didn't even do that on purpose, I swear. It just happens, and I'm just like, oops. I sang. Oh well. I did see in somebody else's stream actually that they had a hard time with getting the paint in the specific like roll on the knife. So I'll take a second to show you guys what I do there. So I have my color here. So if I want to extra mix it, I'll want to lift it all up and then pull it down. And I want to do that multiple times if I want to really mix it. But if I don't want to mix it, I just leave it the way that is there. See how it's pulled really, really flat all the way off the knife there? So my knife now has nothing on it. Nothing on the knife. And then you just pick up a little bit of roll of paint there. Now it's a very thin roll of paint, but there's a bigger one. And the more times you do that, the higher up you go on that, you're going to get a bigger and bigger roll of paint. So that is the roll of paint that that we talk about here. And I'm going to mix some darker colors, and I'm going to get some more white. Okay, so I'm back with more white. And I've got the darker color, and I'm just leaving it very unmixed. Oh, that was a big roll of I don't want that much. Okay, there we go. And again, the secret to using the palette knife, other than that roll of paint, is to just be very, very light. What you want is for the canvas to touch that roll of paint, but not your knife. So you don't want the canvas to touch your knife. You just want the roll of paint to touch the canvas. And that's how you get it to do all of these things that you want it to do. Now, if that sounds difficult, you're right. It is difficult because you're working with like a millimeter of space here on your palette knife. And it is. It takes a lot of practice. So start practicing. It's really all there is to it. You have to practice in order to get better at it. You just have to practice. There's no two ways about it. You can't just well, I mean, some people probably could be really instantly good at these kind of things, but most people, it's just going to take practice. And then once you get a lot of practice at it, you start getting really good at it. Okay, now I'm going to grab more white and I'm going to try to add a little bit more detail in this area and have the paint break. And this is about letting the paint that's on your canvas pick up the paint from your palette knife so that not only does your palette knife not touch the canvas, but all it's touching is paint that is already slightly arisen from the canvas. It's not easy. It definitely sounds hard because it is. But you get used to it after a while. It just takes practice. I will say if you're having a hard time with things like mountains and rocks and things like this, that layering the palette knife work like this is the best way to get practice on that, because you have to be so whisper gentle and delicate with this, or else you're gonna end up with smudges, and if you smudge, you gotta lift it off and try again. But so I don't necessarily recommend starting with like this, but if you wanted to, you could. No one says you can't. If you want to do this, you do this. I believe in you. There we go. Are there easier ways to paint flowers? Probably. I'm going to say probably. Yeah, probably. I will also say that it doesn't matter how much goop you're going to use. This painting is still going to take like a month to dry. This is not a painting that dries very easily, just because there is so much paint on it. Like I am using a lot of paint. It has like a lot of relief to it, or texture, if you will. Well, that's a good one. There we go. So yeah, now it looks a little bit more like lilac. Try to get in here. There we go. Get up in here a little bit. There. And now I just need a little bit of brown, and I've got a different brush. So I've got a little angled brush here, and I'm just going to come in and kind of add the stem. And I'm just using burnt umber. It's just straight burnt umber. And if it picks up some of that purple, well, that's okay too. Are these branches that are internally inside of a lilac flower more like green? Yes. Is my background green? Yes. So that's why I did them brown. Just so we're clear, I did think about that and was like, oh well. Just gonna add a little kind of texture-y stuff. There we go. This has a little more things going on with it. There we go. And there you have it. Lilacs. Here, I'll take off the tape. So again, this is a Patreon reward. And if you would like to join my Patreon, you can click on the link tree in the description below. And the more the merrier, as they say. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that painting, because I did. I love palette knife paintings. I find them very, very fun. And if you are feeling confident and looking for a challenge, a palette knife painting is always the way to go. So having another one in your repertoire is always a good idea, and practice makes perfect. So don't give up on the palette knife, you guys. Don't give up on the palette knife, because if you love it, it'll love you too. And guess what? You deserve to be loved, and you are loved. So I hope you guys have a wonderful time, and we'll see you guys next week. Mwah!